Greetings to you, lovely students. I welcome you to today's online class. Recall in the last class, we started the topic animal diseases, and in that class, there was a lot of explanation that was made on the definition of disease. There was also explanation on causes of farm disease and also explanation on viral disease. So in today's topic, I'll be explaining bacterial diseases of farm animals, fungal disease of farm animals, protozoan disease of farm animals, and the general methods of controlling farm animals and farm animal disease. So bacterial diseases of farm animals, we are going to be looking at the causative agents, the symptoms, the mode of transmission, and the prevention and control. So anthrax disease. Now, anthrax disease is a very deadly disease. It's a zoonotic disease. That is, it can be transferred from human to from animal to human, and it is caused by Bacillus anthracis. Now, mode of transmission is by direct contact with infected animals. It's also contaminated feed, water, and tools. Now, symptoms, prevention and control. Symptoms of anthrax includes emaciation of the animal, most especially cattle, is mostly from cattle, reduction in milk product and loss of appetite, oozing of blood from the nose, mouth, and anus of the cattle. There's also bloody diarrhea, abdominal pain in the cattle. Then the prevention and control is by good sanitation, isolation of the infected animal, and also regular vaccination. Next is brucellosis. Now, brucellosis is caused by the bacteria known as Brucella spp, is most especially Brucella abortus. Now, the brucellosis is also zoonotic. It can be transferred from the cattle to humans. Now, mode of transmission is by direct contact with infected animals and their products. Symptoms of brucellosis. Brucellosis, one of the symptoms is through abortion. There's also stillbirth. The animal, you will have a stillbirth. There's also emaciation, like you can see in the picture here. We have swollen joints. There's also premature birth of cattle. Now, brucellosis is also known as contagious abortion. Okay. Now, one of the preventive measures of brucellosis is using antibiotics. That is, antibiotics is usually used for treatment of brucellosis, not for prevention. Okay, but vaccination is used for prevention of brucellosis. There's also need for good sanitation and good management. Now, the next one is tuberculosis disease, which is mostly caused by the Mycobacterium bovis and Mycobacterium avium. Now, tuberculosis is common to cattle, is also common to birds. Tuberculosis is also common to humans, which means that tuberculosis is also a zoonotic disease. It can be transferred from animals to humans. One of the symptoms is difficulty in breathing. Now, also there is acute dry cough in the infected animal. There's also incidence of loss of weight. There's also emaciation, and by the time the farmer goes for more in-depth examination, there is enlargement of liver, spleen, and intestine. Now, the next one is trypanosomiasis. Trypanosomiasis is caused by the protozoa Trypanosoma bruceigambias. It's a protozoal disease. And one of the mode of transmission is through tsetse. The tsetse is the carrier of the protozoa known as trypanosoma. Now, it infects the animal, it infects the cattle by biting. Now, once it bites the cattle or the animal or humans, the animal will come down with trypanosomiasis. Now, symptoms is that there is frequent sleeping in the animal. There's also high body temperature, loss of appetite. There's also emaciation. The animal begins to grow thin. there's headache, there's intermittent fever, there's also rigors. Now, one of the means of controlling or preventing tsetse fly is by sanitation, that is by cutting the bushes around the farm to prevent tsetse fly, and also spraying the bush with insecticides. Then there's also rearing or raising of livestock that is resistant to the disease. Now the next one is coccidiosis. Coccidiosis is also a protozoal disease that is caused by the organism known as Eimeria. Eimeria has different types. We have Eimeria necatris, Eimeria maxima. There's also Eimeria tenella. Okay. Now, coccidiosis is usually transmitted to the farm animal through direct contact with contaminated feeds. There's also contact with water, with the tools, and also there's also overcrowding. Coccidiosis is bound to occur in a farm animal. Now, coccidiosis is not only a disease peculiar to poultry. Coccidiosis is also common in rabbits, is common to goats. Okay, and one of the methods of preventing coccidiosis is by regular vaccination and also giving of drugs, that is coccidiostat. Okay, now there's also the need for the farmer to change litter from time to time and maintain good sanitation. One of the symptoms of coccidiosis is bloody stained diarrhea and also anemia. The bird also come down with a ruffled feather. There's also emaciation. There's also loss of appetite. As you can see in the previous picture, the feces is having blood in it. So that's to tell you that the bird has coccidiosis. Okay, and rabbits, like I said earlier, are also affected in coccidiosis. Coccidiosis is also known to affect animals such as dogs and cattle. Okay, now the next one is aspergillosis. Aspergillosis is a fungal disease, is not a protozoal disease, and it is caused by Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus niger. These are filamentous fungi that are usually they get into the body of the farm animal through the feed, and a feed is usually moldy feed. Once the feed gets moldy, this Aspergillus begins to grow on it, and the aspergillosis, it affects the respiratory tract of farm animals. It can be seen, the symptoms can be seen in the ear, the mouth, the throat, and the liver. Now the symptoms is usually difficulty in breathing by the farm animal. There's also dry cough. There's also weakness of the limbs. There's also poor appetite and pneumonia. Now, if there's weakness of the limbs, it means that it is a disease that affects both the skeletal system and the nervous system. Now, the general methods of preventing and controlling farm animal disease. Now, we have different methods of controlling farm animal disease. The first one is quarantine, also vaccination, isolation, good sanitation. Now, we have other means of preventing farm animal disease. Okay, we have prevention of balanced diet. So let's talk about quarantine now. Quarantine is a process of keeping apart the animals imported into the country for inspection and treating them against the disease. So what happens in quarantine is that the animals are kept aside so that they don't cause an entry of disease into the country. Now the next one is vaccination. Vaccination is different from medication. Vaccination is usually used for preventing, while medication is usually used for controlling or for treating of animal disease. Now the next one is isolation. Isolation has to do with separation of the sick animals from the healthy ones. One thing with vaccination is that there are different vaccines for most of the disease that affect both cattle and poultry. And vaccination can be through oral, it could be through injection, and it could be through the nasal route. Now, like I said earlier, isolation is the separation of the sick animals from the healthy ones. Now, once the farmer notices that an animal is sick, he will decide to isolate it from others. That's to prevent the infected animals from infecting other healthy animals, in order to reduce the damage done by the sick animal or the diseased animal. So this will help the farmer to save a lot of cost. Now, the next one is good sanitation. Now, most times diseases get into the farm either through the air, through human contact with the animals. It could be through the feed, it could be through poor management. So once a farmer is able to tackle all these by having good sanitation, by clearing the environment, by making sure the drinkers and feeders of the farm animal is clean, the farmer is bound to have a disease-free environment. There's also other means of preventing animal disease, which includes provision of balanced diet, breeding of disease and resistant varieties of farm animals, just like when you have it as the trypanotolerant farm animals. So these ones are actually tolerant to trypanosomiasis. I hope to see you in my next class. Do have a wonderful time. Bye.